Followingly, co-founder and CEO of WebC like to invite Miss Maika Isogawa under the title of NFT will change your life, the daily lifestyles and asset inheritance. So with that, Miss Isogawa, please. Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for this opportunity today. My name is Maika Isogaya. So last year, I have decided to establish a company based upon digital asset insurance and graduated from Stanford and the year before, and I was an engineer at Microsoft. And the other thing, not relevant, but 2015 to 2017, I was working for Cirque du Soleil. I was an acrobat. And in Odaiba, I was appearing in a show called Totem. And the topic that I want to allude to today is token NFT. How have they been able to transform our daily lives? And about digital asset inheritance is the topic today. So normally, DeFi, crypto, when I talk, I speak in English. So I'd like to speak from English here onwards, please.
We are very used to our systems in Web 2. We are citizens of different countries, sometimes multiple. We have bank accounts where we have to have our personal information and we have paperwork to open them. We are used to our social status and our reputation, whether it be in work or in our personal lives. And we're very used to central governing powers, whether that be the governments that we are used to, it could be Google, or the institutions that we went to for school. Now, decentralization is a buzzword in the world right now. And in crypto, we're trying to create this distributed systems of power. And although we're still in our very early days, we're starting to learn all kinds of new ways to represent social systems, economic distributions, and a lot more. We have a lot of new ways to represent systems in our world now. And you've heard a lot of speakers who have talked about many of these things, and I'll touch on them briefly. One easy place to start is NFTs. So NFTs could be digital collectibles. Some people like to consider them art. They could be all kinds of things. And we're still in the very infant days of NFTs. Because of their codable nature, NFTs can represent essentially anything you can dream of. So right now, they could be access passes to events, or they could be social status. If you have a Bored Ape, that's kind of like a social status, like driving a nice car. And then we have DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations. Some people have likened these to a company, or maybe a country in the way that they're structured and they're run. But entrance into these DAOs typically includes some sort of NFT or a token, and so it's becoming more and more important to protect these tokens. ENS, Ethereum Name Service, we've talked about this a little bit. This is a human-readable version of your address on the blockchain. So people could tie this to their real identity by using their real name, or they could use a pseudonym, like is very common in the world. One issue with ENS, though, is that although the histories are transparent, you can always change what ENS you use. So it's not exactly tied to our digital identities the way we are tied to our identities ourselves. And then finally, real assets, real-world assets are starting to be represented on the blockchain as well. So things like a house or a home. Most recently, some of the newest apartments and homes have been sold as NFTs on the blockchain, so we're just getting started here. And with all of this, our digital estates and our portfolios are starting to grow in value and performance and worth. So it's becoming more increasingly important to protect these things in the Web3 world. One thing we're starting to realize is that Web3 is lacking a lot of the security and tools that we need to protect ourselves online. So for example, one mistake in Web3 could cost you your entire asset portfolio in your wallet. You could click on one email link, one Twitter DM that could completely drain your whole wallet. Another thing is that the legislation of the countries that we're in has not caught up, as you've probably noticed. Countries are going to want to tax these assets, but they don't really know even how to classify them yet. So I think the next decade is going to be really telling in terms of how our future is going to coincide. One last point is that there's a big difference between permission versus access in crypto. So it's one thing to say someone can have your crypto assets and another one to actually have access to them. This is why you can't leave your seed phrase with your financial manager or your lawyer and call it a day, because first of all, that's a security risk, but also they might not know what to do with it. So that's why I'm here, is because I work in the management, protection, and the inheritance space. But I want to share 3 quick case studies into what happens when things go wrong in the space. So case number 1, James Howell. This man is in Wales. in Europe, and he accidentally threw his hardware wallet away. And this ended up losing him $500 million in Bitcoin. And he was working pretty closely with his local government to try to excavate the landfill to try to recover it. Stephen Thomas, he is a San Francisco-based software engineer, and he forgot the password to his wallet. So he had multiple guesses, he only had one left. This is a few months ago, so it's likely that he no longer has access to these assets anymore. And then we have Gary Cotton. So he's a Canadian entrepreneur. He had one of the largest crypto exchanges in Canada, and he passed away, taking all of his customers' assets with him. So the customers gave him these assets to protect. He had the keys, and he passed away. And passed away is in quotes because there's a conspiracy that he might have just ran away with the assets. Now at WebSC, we're building infrastructure. We build smart contracts to be able to help manage, protect, and help people inherit blockchain assets. And we're building this because all of the things shown here as icons, our lives online, our photos, our messages, our systems, eventually this could all one day be represented on blockchain. But the issue is that we lack the tools to manage and protect them right now. So that's what we're building. I think it's pretty easy to get lost in our individual lives, in our day-to-day. But I think to take a step back, true systematic change happens over decades and centuries, sometimes even longer than our human lifespans. So we have to look past our individual 80, 90 years that we might live. Blockchain technology is very exciting because it has the opportunity to change our systems the way that the railroad did, or the printing press, or the automobile. We're just in the very early days. So for example, automated smart contracts. You could automate every one of life's contracts, essentially. Any life agreements could be automated on-chain. Things like transparency, being fully available online to see the histories and transactions on the internet. And then algorithmic-based proofs, like zero-knowledge proofs and so on, has opportunity to change a lot of the technological systems that we have. But at the base of all of it, our individual security, safety, and education is going to be the most important thing, because at this point, all of the user security is on the user to do. And with 10 million MetaMask users, that's a pretty tall order for people who can barely remember their passwords to their bank accounts and so on. So that's one question that WebSC is trying to fix. So within all of this, with the recognition that our lives are quite small on the grand scale of things, I urge you to pay special attention to the people and the teams working to build systems and infrastructure that's going to last centuries from now. Thank you. ありがとうございます。
磯川さん、ありがとうございました。Thank you very much.